Good morning and welcome to FCT Brief. And today we are staying with President Bola Tinubu's renewed assurance on Nigeria's economic direction, where he says Nigeria's economy is on a path of stabilization as government revenue performance continues to exceed expectations. The president made the statement while addressing key stakeholders in Abuja, noting that recent fiscal measures and policy adjustments are already yielding results. According to him, the government's aggressive push for non-oil revenue, tax reforms and efforts to plug leakages in public finance have placed the economy on firmer ground.
He stressed that the administration's commitment to achieving set revenue targets will not only guarantee stability, but also create the fiscal space required for infrastructure, job creation, and social welfare programs. Observers, however, say while revenue targets show positive prospects, inflation and cost of living remain critical issues demanding urgent government intervention. The president assured Nigerians that reforms are being implemented to address these challenges while sustaining long-term growth and stability. With government revenues recording improvement, President Tinubu insists his administration will continue to prioritize economic reforms to secure prosperity for all Nigerians. Tokwe Fashwa is the economic advisor to President Tinubu, and he's live with us here in the studio this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you
here. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, President Tinubu says the economy has stabilized, but is meeting revenue targets enough proof when citizens still struggle with realities of economic hardship? Shouldn't stability be measured by purchasing power, inflation control and living standards rather than just, targets?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think the thing is that we may not be able to jump the gun as far as economic matters are concerned. So when you say you have achieved stability, meaning that you've been able to calm the storm, there was a time when inflation was 34.8% in Nigeria. There was a time when the Naira fell as far as 1,800, 1,900. We're back to, in fact, as of yesterday or 2 days ago, the Naira birthed at 1,521, which 1,521, which was the best it had done in 7 months, So when you say stability, meaning that we're not running around trying to, quench fires. And I think Mr. President was very clear about that, to say, look, you don't have to know Mr. Cardoso to get your foreign exchange. We've seen even private sector players like Bua writing several statements about that, look, he's never even met the central bank governor more than once, and he's one of the biggest players in this country. There used to be a time they would have to go to the central bank twice a week just to meet people there. I don't know what else went on, and just to get their foreign exchange. So you cannot ask for stability and at the same time you're asking for growth. They're different things. So it's after stability that you now begin to look at growth. Okay. And regarding the statement on revenue, Mr. President was very clear that, look, it was talking about non-oil revenue, which by the numbers we have got has done better by 41%. Compared to what it did last year. But of course, there still be a shortfall maybe on the oil side, but we're now seeing a major shift to non-oil in Nigeria in terms of the revenue we're getting. And in fact, indeed, if you even look at the last rebased GDP, oil sector is contributing about 3% of the economy, while non-oil is doing 97%. So it's a good thing to look forward to. We're seeing a fundamental restructure of the economy, and I think that's what should make us hopeful. Not necessarily to say that we're going to have money everywhere and people are just going to be spending anyhow. No, it's about, first of all, a mindset shift in terms of where the economy is going.
Now talking about stability in the first half of his 4-year term, what are those immediate measures that the priorities area government want to take action in the short term and in the long term to be able to move us to that level of growth and also ultimately to the level of development in the economy?
Well, several things, several balls are being juggled at once. Like I said, stability is when you say, you know, we're not seeing so much volatility, even in terms of GDP growth. We've been seeing a steady growth in GDP and some sort of good balance going on there. The last 2024, we closed at 3.8%, which was later adjusted to 3.4% as a result of the rebasing. As our last quarter, we closed about 3.13%, you know, and we're seeing steady growth, you know, back to back in the economy. There was a time in 2020, 2021 when we lost about 5% of the GDP and going into a recession, you know. So first of all, you look at that. Then, of course, the issue of inflation, 34% at some point, 34.8%. After rebasing, it went to 24%. It's been going down since then, 23, 22, now at 21.8%. You know, that's stability. So when government will look at some of those indices, foreign exchange, volatile at some point, when, you know, we liberalize that regime to say, you know what, let this market trade and let us find the real value of the naira. So it went up to 1,800, 1,900. Now it's back to 1,500. And in fact, the funny thing is that sometimes, which has never happened before in this country, you would be able to buy money cheaper from the black market, you know, called the parallel market, than you would buy from the banks. It has never, before it would be that you buy from the banks or the central bank cheap, and you'll be able to make 30% or 40% profit in one day by merely buying from the central bank at 450 and offloading to the market at 800. Now that one is totally out of the place. You know what I'm saying? But apart from that, there's also some of the ideas that Mr. President had pushed, for example, to say that, look, we must capacitate. We must capacitate our local industry. Just a few days ago, the export of shea nuts was banned. Every country takes strategic decisions from time to time like that. And of course, a few people have complained, oh, why don't you just let us continue to export? You see, merely exporting shea nuts, which other people actually transform into products that come. For example, shea nuts is very big in the cosmetics industry. And cosmetic industry serving half of the world, which is especially our women, which is about 4 billion people. Let's say the adults out of them, maybe 2.5 billion people using cosmetics every day. We're shipping out those. In fact, Benin Republic has been playing a game on Nigeria by buying up every time from Nigeria, storing up, and then offloading when the prices are high in the global market. And Benin Republic, which is perhaps 1/6 the size of Nigeria, or 1/8 the size of Nigeria, now became the biggest exporter of shea butter and shea nuts perhaps in West Africa, and perhaps one of the major ones in the world. And while Nigeria is just selling for peanuts and so on. So now, Mr. President, I said, you know what? And I saw also another subsidiary of BUA, Boa Industry, wrote to the president to say, look, thank you. This is something we've always needed. We have industries here. We have people to employ. The same thing for things like soya bean. You know, so there are many of those products that are going on in this country. So Mr. President is big on value addition so that we will get more value for the exports that go out of this country. This is how countries are repositioned beyond just merely operating as if we have no ambition for ourselves. You know, and of course, a lot of the manufacturing sector is being repositioned. Honestly, a little bit of patience. But then again, beyond patience that we would ask from Nigerians is also a level of positivism for people to get involved in those industries that are transforming presently. Because industries are transforming, and not just to say, oh, things will never go right in this country. Well, it's at your loss.
Dr. Tope Fashwa, I still have one question for you, and that's about what Nigerians actually think about these reforms and how is it impacting their lives. But we'll take that right after this short break. Don't go anywhere. And we'll still continue our discussion on Nigeria hitting its revenue target and how it is impacting on the Nigerian economy as well as Nigerians. And we still have with us in the studio the economic advisor to President Tinubu, Dr. Tope Fashwa. Now, I'd like to ask you a very practical question, and that is that a lot of people say that when President Tinubu came into power, exchange rate was at about 500, 600. 800. Now, okay, and some people would say why should we celebrate when dollar is still at 1,500? Is there any chance that the dollar would still fall back to that price of 800, like you mentioned, and below?
Well, you can't measure an economy only by the value of its currency. And also, if an economy is strategic, you may find a scenario where the managers of the economy will say, you know what, we could actually live with a weaker currency, especially because it helps you to drive your exports, for example. If you look at cocoa, and I heard earlier on you said you're from the Southwest. I'm from the Southwest as well, Ondo State. In 2023, Nigeria exported $600 to $700 million worth of cocoa out of this country. In 2024, we exported $2.6 billion worth of cocoa from this country. In Naira terms, what we did in 2023, maybe say about 700 multiplied by, let's say, 1,005, maybe $1 trillion, 1 point something trillion dollars. In 2024, what we exported from this country in cocoa alone was $4 trillion. Two things happened. We moved from 280,000 tons in 2023 to 340,000 tons of cocoa export in 2024. We're looking at 500,000 tons of cocoa in 2025. And, so that means that the depreciation of the currency is also part of the encouragement for people. I keep on repeating this. I saw one image, one video on WhatsApp where one guy in Idore, my state, and it's half a trailer of cocoa bags were leaving the town, and he was pointing. He said, "Oh, Coca-Cola non-Dore, this 600 million." And I was shocked that half a trailer of cocoa was 600 million naira. One bag of cocoa, which is about 100 kg, used to sell for 1.8 million naira. People left their jobs. Bankers, there was Reuters, so we're not talking about local press now. Reuters actually did a report whereby they saw that people who left their jobs as engineers and bankers and so on went back to their village to go back to their cocoa farms and so on. In fact, in Ondo State where I'm from, there's now a stampede for people to go back to their farm to say, look, what can we get from cocoa? Because in fact, this year, the price of cocoa is going higher, right? Partly because Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, which are the number 1 and number 2 exporters in the world, they're having some issues. Therefore, the onus falls on Nigeria to meet that gap. So we're looking at 500,000. So when a country like Indonesia, their currency is about 16,000 Indonesian rupees, if I'm correct, to the dollar. 60, and they have grown to become a $1 trillion economy. Nigeria is still where we are, about $250 billion, and we have ambitions to strive towards 1 trillion. If we can't meet 1 trillion, if we end up at 600, 700 billion in 2030, it's still an achievement, and that would be a pass mark. So let's not judge the country only on the foreign exchange. In fact, part of what it has done, let me land on this. We used to have a lot of instances where people will send children of 4 or 5 years old to go and study in London, in Switzerland. They used it to do big man, Now we're seeing a reversal. I was traveling back to Nigeria a few days ago. I sat with a gentleman from King's College London who said they're establishing an A-levels college in Nigeria. And you know that there's been a few of those kind of colleges, British high-level colleges, establishing in Lagos, in the Lekki area. Very high level, where one of them, they pay 42 million naira per child per year. So we're seeing a reversal of that. And even Nigerian fashion is being exported to the world. See, there are trousers they make with this kind of material now. These are showcase material that young people wear. They're now wearing it all over the world. So we're also being encouraged as a result of the weakness of the naira to push out a lot of our products, whether agric or manufactured products.
Okay, Dr. Faso, I want to point two things. Earlier you talked about the shea butter that the president placed the ban on. And my worry is, with this ban, does that mean it will stop smuggling? We have the restriction on petrol, and we kept on seeing people smuggling out. What are we putting in place to ensure that this ban will make sure that smuggling is discouraged? That's one part. The second part is you have inflation. And you have these electricity tariffs squeezing it out of the ordinary people. We're talking about inflation coming down, but the ordinary man hardly have disposable income to spend because huge tariff is taking it away from them. So what exactly you're putting in place to cushion this effect on the people? You
mentioned electricity, inflation, and nuts and so on. Let me look at the electricity. Hopefully, I don't think the tariffs have been increased again recently. And if it would be, well, at all, the last time we had an increase was about this band A, band B thing, which what the ministry is trying to do is to ensure that people who can pay are the ones that pay more. People who live in posh areas are the ones that pay more. So they zoned some areas to be zone A, band A, band B, and co. And then they increased the whatever on them. Of course, there's advocacy, which I probably will join, to say that, look, okay, let people have a breather for now. Don't increase this electricity tariff for now. Apart from that, what I'm also seeing is that a number of companies, big companies, and also big people are actually switching to alternative, meaning that we can't just continue to increase tariffs while discouraging people from even using electricity coming from the grid. You know what I'm saying? So that's one. In terms of disposable income, what we have seen, look, in Imo State government also, was it that increased the minimum wage to 120,000 again. So all over the country, we're seeing governors take initiative. In fact, I doubt if there's any state in this country that has now put its minimum wage at, say, 70,000. That's the federal government thing. Most of the states are doing more than 70. In Lagos State is doing 100,000 minimum wage. So there's concerted effort to ensure that people are earning more. And in fact, again, every time I'm on TV, I take that initiative to appeal to even private sector people, irrespective of the number of staff. You have to pay more. Why? Because the reason why we're talking about inflation in the first place is because every producer, every seller, every retailer has increased their price over time.
And when you pay more, they will increase it further.
So no. So what we're saying is this: when if you are selling this phone for 100,000 and you're not selling for 200,000, you've been able to shift the cost on the customer. Therefore, pay your staff better, because everybody knows that the naira 2 years ago is not the naira today. The naira 5 years ago or 10 years ago is not the naira today. Every currency loses value over time. Therefore, we're saying that, look, there's a moral situation, a moral ground for people to do better in terms of what they pay their staff, whether you were in the public sector, and the public sector is stepping up now to do the right thing, like I said, not only federal, but also the state, but also the private sector must do the needful, So we're getting there. On she notes, I was speaking some time ago to Dr. Dakpo Abiodun, who actually has as at that time, this is almost a year and a half ago, he had the intelligence of what was happening, because Ogun State is also a border to Benin Republic. He had the intelligence of what was going on with the shea nuts and shea butter business. How the Beninoa will continue to buy, because Nigeria say you want to do free market. Okay, fine, do free market. They buy from our farmers at very low prices. They position themselves until prices go up, because in that country, that ban is there. Don't sell until September, if I remember. Nobody will sell until September. And of course, they offload on the global market and get the dollar. So hey, we know that, okay, banning may cause those incentives, but what it has done now, we haven't banned every product. We've only said that, look, this one, let's everybody put attention on it. Let's see where this goes. Let's run this policy. And no policy is perfect. Perhaps if we run it 6 months, and of course, it's a temporary ban, 6 months, 1 year, we determine whether it's working for us. But long and short is that our local industries need to thrive and need to employ Nigerians, and we need to earn more for whatever we're pushing out of this country. All
right. Let's move to a very recent development, which is an increase in price that we see on CNG. Very recently, it was increased from about 250 to 450, and they said that maybe government is withdrawing subsidies from this, alternative source of energy. Shouldn't we develop this sector? We still have a lack of infrastructure as regards the CNG. We still have conversion stations, and also where people can also access the CNG is still a challenge. Shouldn't government be looking to invest in massively in this sector and, diversify? Since our agenda is to diversify away from oil, shouldn't the government also consider this as a huge investment?
Again, that's the thing about policies. Policies are not permanent. Policies are not static. And a good policy is dynamic, because a good policy is a policy you review from time to time. So we've been running at about 250 or thereabouts up till now, and the government decided that, you know what, let's begin to liberalize this a little bit to take out some of the subsidies and see how things run. I would say that we allow this happen. One of the problems they had in the CNG space is that, you know, the gas is got from the south. As you begin to move up north, it gets more expensive. They've been able to bridge it up to Abuja, but what happens in places like Maiduguri and co, Sokoto and co, you know, so it's believed that, look, you may not continue to run this business at a loss, which is what subsidy is. So if you're able to get back some of your costs that you are spending in that sector, you'll be able to go further and go around the country. So there's still a bit of regulation going on, because I don't know if there's anywhere they sell CNG at 1,000 naira in this country. It's not possible for now, because there's regulation. And the market is still growing, you know, because maybe as a date we've done about 150,000 to 200,000 cars. In fact, this has even brought attention back to that CNG to say that, look, we still have a long way to cover. And I was reading someone who spoke yesterday on this CNG, and he said that the way they are going, yes, I was reading, in fact, a very interesting article, I think, was it in Daily Trust or somewhere, where they were doing a survey of petrol stations. And apart from petrol stations like MRS, there was very low demand elsewhere. Remember that in fact, another news item that came out yesterday was a 28% drop in petroleum usage in Nigeria. And CNG and other sources are filling the space, including electric cars that are now coming on board. You know, I have one, a small one, and that's what I use. You know, so everybody is trying to reposition themselves.
How many Nigerians have the electric car?
Well, they're becoming more common. I'm just saying that the play is changing. The play is changing. The space is changing. And so this CNG thing, I believe that, again, remember, the best policy is a dynamic policy. Chances are that policy itself is subject to constant review, and in a few months' time, we will see where it's going. But I think the incentive on this one is to ensure that these things spread around the country.
Even with that review, I hope that there are strategies being put in place to ensure that CNG is still affordable, because that is what Nigerians are looking for.
I think you should also invite Bashir Ismail, who's the chairman, as well as Michael Oluwagbemi, who's the CEO of the CNG initiative. Let them come and give you an update, because there's a lot they're doing. And from what that person said in the news item I read, that CNG is actually now taking up a lot more space, and a lot of people are diverting. You see that most of the filling stations where you see long queues are CNG stations.
So we should encourage people to have more.
Absolutely.
So subsidy might not be the best way
to go. No, you know that right now we can't even have enough crude oil to supply our local refineries. Dangote's refineries operation is shutting down a number of refineries in Europe. Till today, even up to Singapore. You know, it shut it because of this new development. So whatever we have, we can never have enough between local supply and export. So if the whole of Nigeria is on CNG and other means of fueling, so it's good for the country. That means we are getting top dollar for whatever it is. Nigeria now has become a net exporter of refined petroleum, which never used to be the case. We used to import, 100% of what we use. Now we're exporting. And in fact, between Nigeria and the US, Nigeria now ships crude oil to the US. It's unbelievable. Somebody, they wrote, a foreign news channel wrote about that and said that since 1973, this is the first time it's happening, where Nigeria will be selling crude oil to US and importing, we're selling refined oil to US and importing crude oil from the US. Unbelievable. So I think it's a new mindset, and I think this is what we in government, we have to push this and let the people know just how fundamental the economic changes are, and how people need to reposition themselves to get the most from these economic changes that's happening.
Dr. Fashwa, it's a pleasure speaking with you this morning. We definitely look forward to, these reforms translating into real gains for Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time with us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sticking with us.